So let's talk about friends. Because you know what? I don't have any friends. And I'm not saying this to make you feel sad for me or think I'm feeling sad for myself, because I'm not. Because I'm thinking about friends in a certain way. Just from some of the things that you've said in the comments, that a lot of you are going to understand what I just said. But if you're an extrovert and you're really healthy and you've had a lifetime of really good friendship experiences, you probably are not going to understand. I would love to hear your thoughts about friendship and your experiences with friendship, and we can discuss that in the comments if you like. And if you find yourself relating to any of this discussion, you might want to think about subscribing. Okay, so let's talk about what I mean when I say friends. I'm not talking about family members, because my experience and my upbringing and how I lived most of my life is that my true friends were and are family members. My mother was my friend. My grandmother was my friend. My grandmother was my mother's best friend. My husband is my best friend. We just spend all the time together. And our kids would say, yeah, mom and dad are really good friends because we just enjoy being with each other. My extended family are my friends. We get together with Gary's brothers and sisters regularly, like every month, and we really are friends. Don't see my brothers very much. I have a cousin that I just saw recently, and boy, we just talk for hours. And I know if she lived close to me, we'd be doing things and acting in a real friendly way. I have another cousin that's the same way. If we lived in the same town, I'd probably be doing a lot with her, and she'll occasionally call me. So I'm not talking about family, right? And hopefully you have some family that are friends with you. If you don't, then you have to revert to the other kinds of friends, which is what I'm really talking about. I'm talking about friends that you're not related to, that you interact with in your real life, as in person. Like maybe you get together at your home, you hang out, you go to lunch, you're actually doing things with or interacting. I'm not talking about work friends, because my experience with work friends is they're not really friends. They may be friendly with you, but mostly as soon as one of you are not there in the workplace, then that relationship typically just ends. So to me, that's not a real friendship. Real friendship to me requires proximity, where you can do things, loyalty, where you can talk to each other and share experiences, both of you sharing experiences, and being there and supporting each other, and then enjoying doing things together. This is why I don't have any friends. So we have to back up and talk about my childhood, and maybe you'll relate to some of this and maybe you won't. And if you don't relate to it, maybe it's because you're an extrovert. My mother was an extrovert. Her father was a real extrovert. Oh my goodness, they could talk to anybody, any place, anytime, and they loved to. They loved to strike up conversations with people they didn't know well. They just loved to. They loved to talk on the phone, and they were just talking to everybody, where I would say that I'm an introvert. I'm more like my father. Now, my father could talk to people, and I can talk to people. That's not it. It's just that I have to recharge by spending time alone or in quiet circumstances with my husband or something. But to go out and to talk to other people or people I don't know well, especially if it's in groups of like around 20 or 30 people, that makes me very uncomfortable. I think part of it is my nature, part of it is experiences that happen to me, and then learned behavior. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm rambling a bit, because this is kind of one of those rambly topics, and I'm not trying to teach you anything where I have the points all written out. This is just a chat. This is like if you came to my house and we were hanging out and being friends, or first steps of friends or making friends. This would be maybe the kind of discussion I'd have with you about friends. So I grew up in a really small town, and my mother was really pleased to have me because she'd had 2 sons, and then the third son passed away when he was an infant. So when I came along, she was just thrilled to have me. Everybody in the ward, the church was really happy that I was there. They were so thrilled for there. My grandmother was really happy. I was the first granddaughter. That was on my mother's side. They were all really close, and so my mother made quite a bit about me, I would say. I loved to learn things, and my mother loved to teach things, so we were a really good pair. Because anything she did, I would beg her to teach me to do it. And I started reading myself on my own when I was 2, and started playing the piano when I was like 3. And so by the time I entered elementary school, I was writing in cursive and reading chapter books and things that kids my age typically weren't doing. And then I was always a really thoughtful kid, and by that I mean I had a lot of thoughts. Was always thinking about the meaning of life and being serious. I was very serious about my relationship with Jesus Christ as long as I can remember. And so I was thinking about the meaning of life and how people should be treating each other, and reading. I read all the time, which informed a lot of my opinions. My family talked about serious topics a lot. My parents never talked down to us in childish way. They always used big words, and I gained a really big vocabulary, and I learned to talk about all kinds of things, politics and what was going on in the world, and the gospel and scriptures and reading and books and literature, because our family talked about those kinds of things. Well, that was very different than the kids I knew. Those things didn't happen in their homes, and they were different personalities than me. And then I was the only one that was really, really into music. So I was just kind of a kid that was odd, if that makes sense. I was just odd. And the kids felt that I was odd. And I knew that I was getting teased a lot. I knew that it was really hard for me to have friends that were loyal to me. Maybe someone would be friends with me for a while, and then as soon as the popular kid wanted to be the friend, they would dump me. And then when somebody else didn't want, was out of favor with the popular kids, and they'd want to be my friend, and then when the popular kids wanted to be friends with them again, they dumped me. So that was kind of my state of my life, and I was teased and teased and teased. And spent a lot of time by myself, and we're just with my family and with adults. It seemed like no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't figure out the mystery of having really good friends. And by the time I got the end of my junior year, I just needed to get out of there. I was just so tired of the chaos and feeling on the outs and being treated on the outs. I wanted to get out of there. So I graduated a year early and went to college. And things were better for me in college in that I got to be really good friends with my roommates, particularly one of them. She really became my best friend. And then I got married to my husband, and then after that, I had him as a friend. When I had friends outside of my family, it would typically just be 1 or 2 people. So groups of like 20, 30 people are very uncomfortable for me. I would even say if you're a group and maybe there's some women, like 2 or 3 other women that are really talking because you can tell they're friends, and I just kind of on the outside, it's very, very uncomfortable for me. extremely uncomfortable for me. And I think a lot of that has to do with my past. My mother couldn't understand it. We have like these meetings with the women, like once a month at church, and they get together, and I never want to go. And it's not because I don't like them. And it's not because they're not doing good things. It's because I feel so uncomfortable, and I go in, I never know who to talk to or who to sit with, and they're all talking with each other, and you can tell there are all these friendships, and I'm always on the outside. And a lot of it is just because of the way I am, and I'm not extending myself, but I don't know how. My mother could just, like I said, she could talk to everybody. And when she was still alive, she thought I was terrible, that I wasn't going to those. But it just felt like too much. I go to church. I serve at church. I play the piano. I love going. I love interacting with those people. But I'm just kind of slow to do it and slow to get to know people. I'll just like smile at them and say hello. I typically make friends with older women easier than I do younger women, and I think a lot of that's because I spent so much time with adults and talking with adults and feeling comfortable with adults when I was a child, and felt really comfortable with my teachers, and my teachers always really liked me because I was such a serious student and loved to learn. Even as a young mother, I would make friends with women that were more my mother's age. That's been true for me all the time. The problem I have now is that those women have largely passed away. So I spent a lot of time working over the years, and I found it really difficult to make true, good friends at work. I've been doing so much thinking about this. I was forced to retire in 2022 because I got really sick with COVID and then long COVID. It's given me time to really kind of consider my life and what has happened in my life and what has just happened to me that maybe wasn't fair, and maybe things that I was doing that I didn't realize that were causing me problems. Done a lot of asking myself of questions. Am I just really just kind of an odd person and people don't know what to do with me? You know, on one hand, I think that may be true, but then on the other hand, I have had really good friendships, which are largely determined on proximity, because like when we were in the Air Force, and I'd have a really good friend or two, and then they would get reassigned somewhere else, we'd get reassigned, and we'd all go our own ways, and then those friendships just disappear. Unlike a lot of women who have really close friendships when they were in school or in high school and they remained good friends the rest of your life, that's not my experience at all. You see those friendship movies, you know, and that's what it's like for those women, and they're just loyal and helping each other, and the yah sisterhood comes to mind. But that's so far removed from my experience. Friends with family. As far as people outside my house, no. So when I was at work, again, I think my seriousness affected my ability to be real good friends with people at work, because I was always working so hard and wanting to do so well and coming up with new ideas. And people like the vice president would really like me. My coworkers would feel threatened by it. And then I was just such an awkward person. I still am just such an awkward person. I have finally learned that some things I was doing were just wrong and that they were really bothering people. So one of those things, and if you have someone that's done this to you, I apologize to you on their behalf, because I can pretty much tell you why they were doing it. Let's say someone is telling you or telling a group about something that was really awful that had happened. Like maybe they'd had surgeries or problems with their kids, or they'd fallen or whatever. You know, just something dramatic that had happened. And then you're just the other person, like me, just searching in their mind, looking for a situation that was similar, and then would start talking about your similar experience, not because you wanted to take the attention away from the original storyteller, but it was your way of saying, in a wrong way of saying, but I didn't know that, oh, I get you, I relate to this. But what I didn't know for most of my life, well, I figured this out about 10 years ago, I'd say, that it felt like you were just hogging the attention, and it would actually really hurt their feelings. And the problem is, you see, if you're someone who's doing that, you are getting a reputation to do that. And then once you get that reputation for doing that, people just don't forget that. And then when you're someone that maybe is doing really well and is coming up with all these ideas, and the big boss is noticing you and you're getting attention from the big boss, people don't like that. And you get this reputation, and people are talking about you behind your back, and you don't know. And then maybe you were like me, you kind of learned to gossip, and everybody was gossiping. You learned to gossip, and then you think you have a really good friend, and you're gossiping with the really good friend about someone else, and then not knowing this good friend was actually telling this other person about what you said, and it just becomes a really big tangled mess. You don't understand what's happening. You go home at night, and you're just so mad at yourself that, oh, I know I'm messing up, but how do I fix it? It's a mess. But then when I'd have friends outside of work, like these older ladies, and like I had a friend that I would take to musicals, and she just loved it when I'd do that. That was different. We were just having normal conversations. But at school and at work, it was really hard for me. It was easier, I thought, when I owned a company, because I was the one that was the big boss. But I tried to be really friendly and extend myself to all the people who work for me, all of the customers and everything, and I gained a really good relationship with a lot of them and a reputation for being friendly. But what I didn't know, because I'm such a blank, is that all these people were conspiring behind me. One of my partners actually got a whole bunch of the designers, and they went off and started a competitive company. And this was all happening behind my back. And I was such a clueless person. Oh, everybody's getting along, everybody's liking me, because I'm clueless. And I'm like, why am I so stinking clueless? And it's like, I think I'm always like assuming the best about other people and their motivation and what they're doing. And then I have missed that some of the things I was doing were causing problems, because I had that big mess up problem time when I was a kid. And then I learned to do some of those things from my family members. Like my mother was one of those that you'd start telling a story and she would jump in with her story. And you'd think I'd figure out, it bothered me so much when my mother did it, it would bother other people when I did it. But no, I finally know that. I figured that out. And I've been figuring other things out as well. My time, that company made it really easy for me to talk to people online and be real with them and be friendly with them. And then if I've been so blessed to have someone who lived close to me in my proximity, to start out a real friendship with them and to go out with them like monthly and spend time with them. I developed a friendship like that with someone named Wendy when I had that company, and we regularly did everything together. I mean, like once a month we'd go out to lunch till COVID hit. Oh, COVID messed up everything for everybody. Oh, that lockdown was terrible. But then she moved away, and so I just don't get to see her as much. When I've had friends, it's been really like that. So there are some of you that I talk to in the comments, or I see you and I remember what you're saying. I get to know who you are, and I can just tell that if you lived close to me, you would probably be one of those people that over time could build up a friendship, that we would like go to lunch, that we would enjoy spending time with each other, because I feel like you get me when I'm talking, and when you're commenting, I feel like I get you, but we just don't have proximity in our favor. So right now, I'm in this really weird period of my life where my mother passed away, and my other friends that were in my proximity that I would see regularly passed away. I'm not kind of relating with the other people. They're good people, they're wonderful people, they're kind people, but they're just in different stages of their life, that's all. And they have different experiences, like maybe someone who's my age, they have a lot of children and a lot of daughters, and they're really close with their daughters, and they're doing things with their daughters. And people like that don't need to have a spare wheel friend. And I am like a spare tire. That's it, a spare tire friend. Because I'm like the oddball that's kind of out there. And if I happen on the right person, then I can become friends with them, right? So this is why I say I don't have any friends. And I'm not alone, and I'm mostly not lonely, although I would say, yes, I am, because I would really love to have a friend that's in my proximity that I could go to lunch with once a month. Yes, I would. I would really enjoy that. I can put up my sign. I'm looking for a friend. Help wanted. I want a friend. But I'm not sorry for myself. I really am not feeling sorry for myself. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about, and that is chronic illness and how it affects friendships, because that is a huge thing. If you're chronically ill and you never know from day to day to day how you're going to feel, and it's hard for you to make like appointments because you never know how you're going to feel, and then you have people that you were friends with and they don't get it, and then they end up being critical of you and dumping you. So there are a lot of different aspects to being chronically ill that affect friendships in real serious ways. At this point, I've been doing YouTube long enough to know that there are some really, truly nice people on the other end of that camera, and I love to hear from them because that makes me feel a little bit less alone in the life. I really do like to talk to people. That's not my problem. Anyway, I'd love to know what you think. I'd love to know your experience. Let's be YouTube online friends. And then maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe sometime we'll be able to meet each other and spend some time in person, one-on-one. Who knows? It could happen. I hope I see you again.